Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar, co-hosted by the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology and brought to you by the New England Regional Defense Industry Collaboration, NERDIC. We had a great kickoff webinar last Tuesday. This is our second one. Topics, obviously, that are all very, very important to companies large and small, but mainly focused on the defense supply chain. This one today is on augmented reality for Industry 4.0. Anything around AR and VR, we're going to learn a lot about it, but these are some of the real important things that we want companies to start being aware of, participate in some of the demonstration projects, and really learn about these great technologies. We've got a great agenda today, always a full agenda, so we like to go fairly quick as we use up our time. We're going to have some great opening remarks, and from Kathy Mahoney from Polaris MEP in Rhode Island, Eric Fogelman, Senior Technology Solutions consultant with Constep, one of the great MEPs here in New England, and then we get right into our augmented reality demonstration and an overview by SphereGen, and I'm going to introduce those partners after. So a little heads up about NERDIC, and as you can see, this has just been a tremendous ecosystem that has been established throughout the Northeast. And when you start looking at the 6 New England states, there's really a group here, from companies, defense contractors, advanced manufacturers, but to educational institutions, industry, business, all pulled together. That's what NERDIC is looking to do. How do we just bring this group together, create this robust, sustainable ecosystem, and one that when you look throughout the 6 New England states, we can compete with any state, any location around the world, and you look at the capabilities that we have here. So it's really just something that we're working real hard on to continue to develop. The whole idea, again, is to be sustainable. For this particular program, you could see well, I'm looking at the right side of the screen where it says the different technologies. We want things that are going to be very relevant to the supply chain, to our smaller businesses in particular. So we're looking at things like model-based definition, augmented reality today, but also virtual reality, cloud computing. And then it gets down into things like cybersecurity and automation, robotics, things that the MEPs, especially the manufacturing extension programs throughout each state, are really going to be working hard to deliver these throughout the manufacturing supply chain. So anyway, it's a great ecosystem. Stay in touch, look at the websites, get the information. We definitely want you to continue to participate. So at this time, what I'd love to do is bring in Kathy Mahoney, the director, center director for Polaris MEP, and Eric Fogelman. I introduced you both, and Kathy, it's great to have you on. You and I have spoken before, and we've actually been on quite a few meetings as we develop this NERDIC program. And Eric, you and your involvement with Constep, actually wish you a little congratulations. Eric is one of the first, if not the first, in Connecticut to be certified in SERI. He may want to talk a little bit about that, but Kathy, I know you guys want to give some opening remarks, so I guess I'll turn it over to you first, Kathy.
Great, thanks, Ron. Thank you and your team and NERDIC for putting this important, relevant program together for manufacturing companies. Polaris is honored to be a part of this and a part of the NERDIC team. We are representing Rhode Island and its manufacturing companies. I'm looking forward to hearing more about augmented reality and how it can help companies with job instructions, upskilling current and future employees. It's an exciting time for manufacturing and its supply chain. There's a lot going on, so this is perfect timing for the companies to learn more about how they can grow and improve their companies. So thank you again for including Polaris MEP in this exciting and informative series.
Thank you. Eric?
All right, yeah, I'll echo everything Kathy said. We're glad to be a part of this program and the involvement with it. And, obviously bringing these technologies to bear for the small to medium manufacturing community is key to our mission. We see a lot of exciting things coming out in this area, allowing skilled technicians and maintenance people to have a virtual over-the-shoulder look and provide remote support. Bringing people into a facility that they're not physically in is, definitely something that we're seeing a lot of applications in. Other solutions, as Kathy and Ron both mentioned, training people and providing that visual feedback. This is exciting technology, and I've been especially excited to see it become a lot more approachable over the last couple of years. It's something that's definitely coming more and more into the forefront of manufacturing. And as Ron kind of mentioned with the Siri assessment, I'll give a quick plug there. We're really excited to be working with this assessment framework. It's a wonderful framework that it's been adopted and promoted by the World Economic Forum, and the point of it really is to help people get a very focused view of where they can apply Industry 4.0 technologies to advance their operation. But we answer one of the big questions that often gets left at the end of an assessment: what now? What's next? We provide some targeted insight into your next steps and the roadmap to success. So we look forward to using this tool to help people adopt these advanced technologies.
That's great. Kathy and Eric, thank you very much. Now, I also want to just thank you guys separately for, and together as the MEPs. We wouldn't be here today, I don't think, if it wasn't for the MEPs. The manufacturing extension programs, you guys kind of have a tight network. So, it's not new, the fact that the MEPs in New England and the Northeast have worked together. I mean, it's not really a national network. So, bringing us all together and now having NERDIC leading this and pulling even some additional resources, it's pretty substantial. But you get some of your mission out of NIST and what's coming. Can you just give us a little more insight, not just related to this program, but in general, the MEPs, what's coming? What else do you see coming out of Washington and all these new programs? How does that all work together? And I don't know if both of you want to comment, or maybe Kathy, you first.
Sure. So as there's a lot of talk in the media with the executive orders that are coming out related to manufacturing, it's a great time to be a manufacturing company or involved with manufacturing in the United States. I think one of the silver linings that came out of the pandemic is the importance of domestic manufacturing, and the MEP centers are at the forefront of that. There's an MEP center in every state in Puerto Rico. So there's 51 centers, all with a mission to improve and grow manufacturing companies. Each center approaches that a little bit differently, not very much, not a lot different, based on region, demographics within their state, and their needs based on the client needs in their state. So what we're hearing from Washington is that there is a pipeline of funding coming. It hasn't been determined yet what exactly the programs will be or how it will be spent. So we're all waiting to hear, but Industry 4.0 is definitely a leader in that because it's the next generation for manufacturing. It's the fourth industrial revolution, they're referring it to. So this is perfect timing to get New England centers ahead and New England manufacturing company ahead of the curve.
Great.
And it's it's great to see this emphasis being put on Industry 4.0 and manufacturing technologies. I love it, obviously, as an engineer. It's exciting to see us getting put at the in the spotlight a little bit. So, but we definitely see that push that for our country, the importance of getting back into domestic manufacturing and promoting that and advancing that, making us strong players in the world of manufacturing, and it really comes down to a lot of these advantages that come from the technology that's available. People just have not leveraged enough of it, and to promote that message and help people adopt it, find success with it, and find sustainability with it. We tie that into our messages of continuous improvement and lean manufacturing. We see this as another one of those important tools for companies to use.
Well, Kathy and Eric, I love the fact that both of you mention the term domestic manufacturing. So, I mean, that is exactly what we all want to hear. That's why we're all here and convening like this and really saying, okay, in order, Northeast isn't a low-cost place to do business. So, we have to make sure we can equalize that and keep our competitive advantage. And we do that by staying ahead of the curve in adoption of technology and making sure that we're keeping up on our skilled workforce. So no doubt the workforce training, the incumbent worker training, and all these pipeline initiatives obviously are going to be very important to us. And I know that's something that NERDIC is also working very hard on as well. So that's an important part of their mission. And so anyway, it's great having you both on. We want to hear more from the MEPs. I mean, you guys are the ones, you're the boots on the ground. You're in front of these companies and in and out of them. And, it's so vital to have us all together collaborating. And it's great working under NERDIC sign, and it's just nice to be partnering like this. So thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So at this time, we're going to get right into our presentation, and it gives me great. Actually, before I just introduce the folks that are presenting, I do want to let you know this is a really robust presentation, very exciting and interesting. All the handouts are going to be made available, so we'll make sure that everyone gets these handouts afterward. And as we're going through this, the chat room is open, so please feel free to put some questions in that chat room, and we'll circle back around. But for now, what I'd like to do is introduce Amy Pacelli. Amy is the account executive for SphereGen. Amy is going to be kicking off the program and I guess getting us through quite a bit of the program. And then we're going to hear from Andrew Guagliardo. And Andrew is a senior developer, and he's going to handle the, I guess, the demo part of it. So, but to start out, Amy, I looked at this and I'm like, what is augmented reality? If you don't mind a little snippet, you're probably going to get to it more. But what's the significance? Since we're here with NERDIC and it's about the defense community and defense manufacturers, what's the significance to defense manufacturers?
It's extremely significant. The demand for this right now in manufacturing is incredibly high. A brief overview would be that it's virtual overlay on the real world. So a lot of people have kept sort of those two worlds separate. You have your shop floor and then you have the digital stuff, and they've kind of been separated. And this is really how you bring those two worlds together to expedite training, to do iterative design, and to also do really intense IoT monitoring. And the possibilities are really endless and it's continually expanding. So I'm very excited to be here. I think it's very relevant and it's going to be a fun educational time for everybody.
Well, that's so interesting. And when you look at this, we talk about digital shop floor transformation or digital transformation of a company. It's vitally important as we go through these Industry 4.0 and I guess eventually Industry 5.0 technology. It sounds like what SphereGen has worked on is a way to kind of bring it all together so you can really take advantage as you begin to transform digitally and adopt these new technologies. So look, I don't want to take up too much time. I know you've got a great presentation, Amy, so we'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you everyone for attending today. We're really excited to be here. I think for this presentation, I'm just going to give you a little background about us. I'm going to try to keep this mostly educational today. I'm not here really to sell you on augmented reality. I'm more here to teach you about what it is and really focus on mixed reality, which is the new frontier of augmented reality. So I'm going to share a lot about that. And then we're going to do actually a live demo, which everyone will be on the edge of their seats for that because it's going to be actually streaming from the headset to my computer. And I'll be able to share with you live what's happening on the HoloLens and some of the use cases for that headset that we're going to feature today. And then we're going to leave a lot of time for Q&A because this is a cutting edge technology. There's a lot of questions that people have, and I think that's going to be incredibly valuable. So just briefly about SphereGen, I'm actually in our office here in District New Haven. We are largely Connecticut based, but we do have clients worldwide, and we also have offices globally as well. You would say that our specialization is things that haven't been done before. We love a challenge and we really like innovative projects. And we're very agile. We try to be hyper efficient and our methodology and constantly revising what we do. These are kind of the 4 areas we work in. Today, we're really going to focus on augmented, virtual, and mixed reality, specifically how it applies to manufacturing. So a little background on what is the difference, because I get asked this a lot. You'll hear these terms thrown around. You might also see something called XR, and I'm going to go over kind of what these terms mean. So the first one is virtual reality. And if you look at the graphic, that is a virtual robot. He's in a virtual world. There's no real world content here other than photos or videos that are recorded. And usually this is a fully immersive headset that won't allow you to see anything outside of what you're looking at inside the headset. Now augmented reality comes on the scene, and augmented reality I don't know if you, yep, there it is. So augmented reality, the first occurrence of it was actually on live television. And augmented reality is live overlay. So if you watch football, the yellow line was actually one of the first mainstream augmented reality techniques. The yellow line marking the first goal line, very important for those who like sports, go Patriots. But how do we apply that to business? Well, you can overlay all types of virtual content onto machines. You can take machines that are live and working on currently and sort of train people more hands-on off the floor with them. You can overlay digital content of any kind anywhere that you are. And this is actually a really critical point. So even though it started as more of entertainment, we still have a lot of fun games, important to note. Now we get into mixed reality. So the difference here, if you look at the augmented reality picture, you'll notice the robot's like right in front. So augmented reality is usually mobile-based or tablet-based. And mixed reality is the HoloLens headset, which we're going to be talking about today. And you'll be able to see that in a little bit. And the key difference here that you will note is the robot is behind the table. And that's because mixed reality has what we call spatial mapping, which means that it's aware of spatial locations. For example, if I was using the headset in a specific room and I started an application in that room, I could leave for a year and come back and it would still be running. And in fact, that has happened to us many times as we go on site with our clients. We'll go back and we'll see all these apps are still open. And it has the ability to memorize and recognize objects, rooms, and spaces. So I'm going to go over a couple use cases for VR. Most of my time today is going to be spent on mixed reality, but I think it's important to note what virtual reality offers. So this first picture, you'll see sort of 3D design. Honestly, that is a groundbreaking area. It's not as much a current use, but that is something a lot of people are asking us for, the ability to view new designs in virtual reality. More common, what you'll see is something more like this. So somebody who is an engineer or a field worker will use this to review a 3D model or a part or a machine. And they will be able to kind of manipulate that and learn about it this way. And then you'll also see things like this. This is probably the strongest use case for virtual reality. This is a fully immersive room. And that's really what separates VR from the other devices. Anything where you want someone to feel like they are completely immersed or in a different location, that's a great fit for virtual reality. Augmented reality is the overlay. So you'll see here, this person's holding a tablet and they're able to overlay a heat map onto a piece of equipment. And this is where you really get into the 4.0 kind of stuff, because I'm able to take that virtual world and mix it. In the next example, I'm looking at instructions of how to do something. Again, both of these, you'll notice 2 hands are holding a device, and that's important to note. And then for my third example here, this is for planning, and I see this a lot. We have a couple clients, they'll actually use this to rearrange their shop floor, and they'll take 3D models and they'll do a walkthrough and see how those new mills or new machines will look on their floor. For mixed reality, I want to point out right away, both hands are free. So that is kind of the advantage of why you might choose one over the other. Mixed reality, you're able to have both hands free for the operator. And there's a variety of different HoloLenses, which we'll talk about, but the main HoloLens that people use is HoloLens 2. It's very popular in manufacturing specifically because it is a heads-up, hands-free display. You're able to use your voice to navigate it, and you're also able to use your eyes to navigate as well. And you'll also see really much more sort of complex levels of collaboration. So when you're looking at a 3D model of something new that your team is designing, it's a great opportunity for you to collaborate with others on those models. So let's focus in on the HoloLens for a second. A lot of people ask me, what is it? It's technically a wearable computer. So this is a mixed reality headset. It runs Windows 10. And like I said, it is voice activated. So there are specific voice commands that it recognizes. It also tracks all of your fingers, and it can recognize a lot of gestures, either with one or two hands. For example, if I have a 3D model and I reach out and grab it, I can actually pull it like this or rotate it. This is what the headset looks like, and just some of the features involved. As you'll notice, the battery is on the back, so it's very balanced. And it can see everything. So that's one of the other things to be aware of. It is fairly secure. You know, it's signed into your Office or Azure tenancy. But it also sees your eyes, so it does eye track. It does measure rooms and objects. It recognizes them. It also calibrates specifically for your eyes. And it projects interactive content in your view. So in this picture, those are actually my hands, and you can see how it's tracking them. All right, here's a couple use cases I wanted to highlight. So the first one here is taking 3D to the next level by looking at a scalable model. This is very popular for additive manufacturing. If you are going to 3D print, you can put your model into the headset and see it at scale and actually walk into it and see every piece before you print, and you can do that collaboratively as well. Mixed reality tour. So this is not what you might first think. A lot of people go straight to marketing with this, but this is also for attracting new clients or key shareholders. And very important, work instructions to assist employees. I want to highlight one recent case study I read from Microsoft, and this was about Lockheed Martin. And they did a study on their aerospace construction, and they actually found using virtual instructions through the Microsoft HoloLens, they were able to complete 8 shifts of activity in 6 hours, also known as 8 hours of activity in 45 minutes. That's because people aren't going back and forth between a display and the actual work. And it's also because you're overlaying. So if I need to measure something, I can see exactly where it needs to go without grabbing multiple tools to measure. Remote assist. So remote assist is one of the demos you're going to see today. Remote assist is very popular right now for troubleshooting. We've also seen it being used for mentorship and apprenticeship. Basically, it is a 3D Teams call. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Teams, works very much the same way, except I can draw in 3D space through the view of someone wearing a headset and guide them through troubleshooting steps or training steps. Another really fun thing that's more on the frontier is motion capture based. That means if I want to track what someone's doing, say monitor how they're working on something, you can feed that into the HoloLens and really enrich that data in 3D space. Hands-free viewing for iterative design of new products. I just want to highlight one use case again. So at Airbus, they've been using the HoloLens for several years, and they actually have a process where they're using this for the design validation to look at those designs in 3Ds with multiple engineers, making sure everything is correctly aligned and to compare the accuracy of everything. And they found that using the HoloLens was 80% faster than doing this through the computer because you're looking at 3D in 3D. And IoT data viewing. So if you're talking Industry 4.0, I have to include this. You know, a lot of our clients, we have an electrical manufacturer, for example, and a couple others in the energy industry. They were running between, like literally physically running between a computer and a machine. And a lot of this IoT data is kind of on the back end. So it's not made for a general person to look at, and it's very complex to view. The HoloLens is a great opportunity to take the data you already have and put it into a front-end viewer for those who are right in front of the machine to use on a regular basis, whether it's for preventative maintenance or checking on how things are operating. All right, so this picture didn't show up correctly, but this is for remote assist. You're going to see a demo of this. And just to highlight a couple things about it, you can take pictures, you can record calls, it links to your OneDrive, and you can also link it to field service ticketing. So if you have a ticket, they're able to use that ticket to join. And the other cool thing is you can call from a HoloLens to a cell phone, a computer, or a tablet. And this also includes like technical expertise. So if you have a client and you made something for them and they're having problems with it, you can troubleshoot remotely using this headset. Guides. So guides is similar in some ways. It is more like a work instructions versus a live troubleshooting. So it's more for those common issues or issues you want to standardize. We see this a lot being used for preventative maintenance. We have a large food manufacturer we're working with that is really focused on this for preventative maintenance or scheduled maintenance. You can go to the next slide. All right, so one of the key things to note is that this has a desktop application, and you can actually build these guides that then get pushed to the HoloLens. So if you have one subject matter expert, it kind of multiplies their knowledge. And they can also create rules about who can access different guides. So if you have a specific employee you want to assign it to, you can do that. And this is just an example of how we would work with a company to do guides. One of the coolest pieces is you get a lot of metrics from this as far as who did the guides, what days, and how long they took on each step. And that is actually a report that you can export for your training. So you can track, oh, this person did really well, and then tailor it back to your training materials to edit them. I'm just going to mention just a few things that we've done recently. I believe these are our products. So one of the first things that we actually have a patent around eye tracking, and we created a holographic eye test. This is called Visor. We also have an eye tracking tool that allows learners and doctors to get on the same page. So tracking the eye movement when you're reading. And then we have a therapy product as well that we're working on for visual acuity. And we also have Dicom Director. So this isn't directly related to manufacturing, but I would be amiss if I didn't mention it. We do have some manufacturers that use this for medical device demonstrations. And basically, we take CT scans of patients and turn them into 3D models. And I think we're ready for the demo now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, yeah, I'm calling you today because I'm having an issue with the Sonotech. I came in this morning and the emergency stop had been engaged. I had disengaged it, so you can see I have it pulled out. But the LCD display is still showing that it's depressed and saying that I need to reset it. I'm not really sure how to do that, so giving you a call to see if you could help me out.
I'm going to do my best. Okay, so I think one key thing to note here is we actually do have a guide to this machine.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and share it. It takes a second to go through. And this is just in case you, I'm offline and you'll be able to look at this and get hopefully some additional information. But I'm so glad that you gave me a call because this is a great learning opportunity for you.
Awesome. So I see it coming in right now.
Yep, and that actually is going to save to the chat. So next time you'll be able to look
Awesome.
at that. That's just a PDF from the manufacturer that goes over some of these kind of issues.
Okay, great.
All right, well, for right now,
Thank you.
let me help you get off the ground running here. So if you can, I see you're in front of the machine. If you can just go look down below the machine for me.
Okay. Yep.
So this is the air compressor.
Yeah, this down here.
Yep. Yes.
Mhm.
So you see this valve. Hold on, let me go ahead and draw on it.
Yep. I see.
Go ahead and
Gotta
flip that. Yep, go ahead and flip that backwards.
flip this switch.
Yes, sorry. And then that is kind of the first step here. Did the machine kick on for you?
I haven't heard anything, but it looks like the machine is like already pressurized given the gauge down here.
Okay, can you just go up so I can see what that gauge reads?
The
Perfect.
gauge
So,
is right above 80.
perfect. So that's about the range that you want. Okay, so we're moving along nicely here. If you go ahead and go back to the top part of the screen here, or the top part of the machine, and just look up slightly for me.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to put an arrow on this for you.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Yep.
touch that. Did
That's
you
the
realize
LCD.
that's a touch screen? Yep.
Oh.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the
that
actual
was
reset
perfect.
button. All right.
Yes, it is. Excellent. And just looking here, I see you're already at 180 degrees.
Yep.
Okay, that's something else you want to make sure that you're checking as you're going through this.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and look back down just slightly. Yes, see, this is the reset button that you were having an issue with, but I don't want you to pull up this yet. Instead, why don't you see these two buttons right here? Go ahead and push those in.
Yeah. It still doesn't seem like it's working. So, I mean, we have the air pump on, right? And I didn't hear it necessarily charge. So.
Okay, well, let's try one other thing. Look right here where that, to the right of the machine, you'll see these two little levers.
Are you talking about the valves here? Yep. There's a red one and a black one. Yeah, I see those.
Yep, so the red one, you want to turn that about 180 degrees.
Okay, now I heard the air kind of start to charge.
Excellent, excellent, perfect. So now you should be able to hit that button with no problems.
Okay, great.
There you go. Excellent.
Awesome.
So happy I was able to resolve that for you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Amy.
You're welcome. Are you now able to show that we have a guide for this as well?
Yeah, definitely. But if it's all right, I want to point out just a couple of quick things though.
Go ahead.
So the first thing is, so as you folks saw, Amy was placing markers around the space. Those spaces, basically those markers are sitting in the physical space. So for example, I have this writing here on this wall, and this writing is actually on the wall. So you'll see the perspective shift is actually shift. And that's because the HoloLens is mapping the physical environment. So when Amy was drawing things and circling like this 180 here, it was actually drawing it around it. And when she was placing arrows, it was showing up for me on the actual buttons. So that's part of what makes this very different from kind of an AR solution. And then of course, as you saw, I've got both my hands free so I can manipulate the machinery and actually go through the troubleshooting steps. So that was remote assist, which is kind of for live troubleshooting or for like almost like live mentorship. And so now we're going to show you guides, and guides is going to walk us through a similar step-by-step process that we just did with Amy, but I could basically do this process by myself as part of a training system to kind of get familiar with this device. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that now.
And you'll notice he just launched a menu from his wrist. That is one of your main controls for the device. And those triangles that you're seeing, that is spatial mapping like we were mentioning earlier.
So Guides has a lot of controls that allow you to segregate and kind of maintain your data in different buckets so you can keep it secure. So we have a variety of platforms here. I'm going to pick the one we use specifically for demos. And I'm going to open up the guide for the heat staker. Now, as you might have remembered, Amy mentioned that there are two versions or two user types for guides. There's authors and operators. Because I'm an author, I see this screen. If I only had operating ability, then I wouldn't see this. It would just take me right into the guide. So I'm going to pick operate so you can see what it's like for your end users. So the first part of any guide is to anchor it. And so that's this first step here. And because I've already opened the guide here, it knows where my anchor is. So it's just asking me to confirm that I see it and that it is in the right location. Now that that's done, I am now getting instructions. One of the things you'll notice is that there is a white dot. That white dot is attached to my headset, so that's how I can control the application, keeping my hands free and also making it very easy to interact with without needing a lot of training. So this is a guide on how to set up and use the Sonatech thermal press. The equipment I'm working with should match the image on the left. And we can see here there's been an image provided for reference. And yep, that is correct. So I'm just going to look at the next button to go to the next slide. Before setting everything up, it's important that we notice the location of the emergency stop button. If at any time we need to stop the machine, we push the button. And you'll see I have this dotted animated line that's guiding my attention down to show me that the emergency stop button is right here. Like before, this is anchored on the button, and there's an arrow showing me that I need to push this in if I want to engage it. If we need to reset the machine after engaging the emergency stop, we pull the button out. We'll then see a reset button on the touch display, which we can push to bring the machine back into normal operation. And so you see here, I've got a holographic hand just showing me exactly where to go. Next, we're being shown the active operation area for the thermal press, and it's an additional kind of safety precaution to make sure that everything is being kept clear. This area is mapped out, just making sure that I'm going to keep my hands clear. We also have obviously the sticker warning there as well. So for first use, we're going to start up the air compressor located below the machine, and we're going to flip the red lever back to start the compressor. You can see it's guiding me down. And I've got a hand showing me to flip this lever back. We've already flipped it back because Amy showed me how to do it in the remote assist call. Next, we're going to power the machine on. We're already on, but it's just showing us to flip that switch up. And we're going to twist the red knob on the side of the machine to start pressurizing it. And showing me which way to twist it as well. And making sure that the pressure gauge on the air compressor is at least 60 PSI. Now you'll notice this step happened a little bit after we turned on the air compressor. And the reason for that is to allow the air compressor to get up to pressure in case we were starting it up without any pressure. And we are above 60. We want to make sure that the machine is at least 170 degrees. So we are at 180. And the machine is now ready for use. To engage, make sure the active area is clear, push both buttons at the same time. And again, I've got hands and little markers. And with that, I've completed this guide. Now, everything I've just done as far as how long I spent in the guide and how long I spent on each step is tracked on a database, and you can use that to kind of review sort of how my training is going. And that's it for kind of a basic demo of guides.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you were able to see the same process, the same issue across two different ways of solving it. So I'm hoping that you all really enjoyed that. That concludes our demo for today.
Amy, thank you very much. And Andrew, where was Andrew now? Where was he at? Where is he actually physically?
So we're both in district at the moment, and he's actually in one of our partners' offices. We have a great relationship with our neighbors in this building, so they always help us out, and we do what we can for them as well. But they let us play with their machines from time to time.
That's great. You know, Amy, I've got some questions for you, and we may have some other questions in the chat, but I'd like to get Nasir Mann and I just want to introduce Nasir. He is actually instrumental on CCAT's behalf for this NERDIC program. Nasir is our lead engineer in our advanced design automation and metrology lab. Nasir is a mechanical engineer, also a software engineer. So he's got probably some pretty good insight and some questions that you may have. So Nasir, thank you for joining us now. I just had something, you talked a lot about data. So one thing I just want to know, where does the data reside? Does it stay on a server somewhere? Is it in the cloud? Where does all this, because it's a lot of data, and these are defense contractors, companies, and some of this may be very protected data. So where would it reside?
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I'm really glad you asked about that. So what we've seen people do, a lot of our companies we work with are already hybrid. And so they kind of separate certain aspects of their technology between on-prem and on-cloud. Typically, the HoloLens, the services you looked at, are based in Azure. However, they are secured with your AD, which means that they're linked to your tenancy. So they have that level of security and compliance. However, we recommend kind of splitting it up like most of our companies do. So they will keep this kind of as a separate area just for this data. The other option is not to collect the data. That's always an option as well. But we love the data just because, you know, we're techies, and it's very valuable for making decisions moving forward. You know, the companies that we did our first few guides for and remote assist for, that was about a year ago. And they're able to go back and see how well that's worked based on this data. So it's kind of twofold.
Yeah. Well, the data is hugely important. Obviously, continuous improvement, knowing what's going on, you definitely want that data. So is there actually two, you have the HoloLens technology, Azure, I think you said, but then you have SphereGen's technology. They're getting blended together somehow. How do the two technologies merge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are, sorry, we are a Microsoft mixed reality partner. So the HoloLens is made by Microsoft. We make applications for it, but we also do custom implementations. So guides and remote assist are both Microsoft. They're similar to having an Office suite, okay, as far as the licensing. But if you have, like, say, old school Office, if you had that, you know, you needed people to come in and make those macros for you. That's probably the best comparison, or custom reports, custom SharePoint development. It's kind of like that. That's the easiest way to explain it in plain terms. But yeah, our relationship is actually doing the development. And like I said, we have some patents as well around some of this. So.
Well, I have just one more question. I'm going to turn it over to Nasir for the next one. But what does a company need to adopt or onboard this tech? I mean, we see all kinds of great technologies all the time. Some technologies are really hard and can be prohibitive to a company adopting them. But what does a company need to actually bring this on board?
So that's something that's really great to point out. A HoloLens is approximately $3,500. And they just launched a lease to own option where you can make smaller payments over a year and then you'll own your HoloLens. So the cost isn't very inhibitive as far as a piece of equipment that you're going to use so much. The one thing I would say that we help companies with is if they're not already using Teams or Azure, if they have no tenancy in either one, you want to set that up. Technically, everything we showed you today, anyone in this audience could go and do it themselves. Where we come in is we actually give the expertise of having done it so many times so that your team doesn't have to go do many hours of research trying to learn everything. So it's a much lower barrier to entry than virtual reality is actually.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Nasir, do you have
Thanks,
a question you'd like to ask Amy?
Yeah, actually, I've got a list of questions here from, so I'd like to get through that first, and then maybe I can ask some of my own. So I see that folks are putting in questions in the chat area. There's also the questions area as well that I'm seeing questions come in. So please feel free to use either one of those two. I'll read one here. Couple comments, I'll get to those, but one of the questions is, I can see motion sickness being a potential issue. How often does this arise and what can be done to reduce it?
That's actually a great point. So in virtual reality, it is a big problem. And in a webinar like this, you can have some issues. When you're actually the one wearing the headset, it doesn't affect you very much. So that would be my response to that. I have horrible motion sickness, but actually wearing the headset, so you can see Andrew's wearing it. It's totally see-through, so you never lose your connection to the actual ground. And that's kind of what prevents that. If you're someone who's calling in like how I was calling in, it's a lot smoother doing a one-on-one call than sharing your screen in a webinar. So I would encourage you just try it for yourself, because sharing your screen in a webinar does a whole different world of delays, unfortunately.
And just in kind of adding on to that question, so the objects that you place in the mixed reality space, they're pretty stable. Do they have any tendency to move or shift?
Andrew can address that if you're good, Andrew.
Yeah, sure. So objects that you place in space basically are using the HoloLens's spatial map to kind of anchor themselves, and they're very stable. Basically, you're going to be down to centimeter and sub-centimeter accuracy as far as any sort of drift you might see, and it's usually very minor. And unless you're doing stuff where you need to like do things on like full-on circuit boards and circuitry, that's something we could definitely like help with, but that would require kind of some additional efforts. But the headset itself, for kind of general day-to-day use, it's really nice, very accurate. We've literally had some folks do a remote assist call where the remote tech was pointing out keys on a keyboard for somebody, being like, this is the key combination you need to hit to kind of access what you're trying to access. So it's great, and it's nice and stable.
Okay.
Yep, and we have a client, Mount Sinai actually is using this in surgery. So I think if it's stable enough for that, hopefully it would meet any needs.
Yeah. Another question that came in, how long did it take an experienced person to create the guide to using the heat staking tool in the demo? How long would it take a novice?
So that's an excellent question. So it's kind of hard to estimate how long it would take a complete novice, right? If it's your very first time kind of making a guide, that does kind of vary, but it shouldn't take very long. Essentially, there's a two-part system to the guide's creation. And the first part is actually a desktop application that if you've used PowerPoint, is going to feel very familiar. Essentially, you go in and you create an outline. You're able to rapidly create slides and then provide text for those slides. And then the kind of additional holographic content that you were seeing, like the images and the actual like markers, the hands, the arrows and things, those are supplied by a library that comes with guides, and you just kind of drag and drop them on particular steps. Now, the part that is actually, takes a little bit of onboarding and can be a little difficult for a complete novice who's never used the HoloLens before is the authoring in the headset. So once you're done providing that kind of outline on the desktop, which you can do very quickly, and even, if you're working with your subject matter experts, they could even do that step on their own. You need to have somebody go into the HoloLens and then manually place those holograms so they're properly lined up. So I went in and was putting that hand so it was pointing right at the button, right, and placing it. And so that process takes a little bit of training from the headset side. And it usually takes, a little bit of time to get familiar with it, maybe just like an hour or two and some constant use. But the Sonotech guide that you just saw, I basically made that guide myself from start to finish in about half an hour.
And I would say Andrew is an expert user. I have made one quite a while ago. I made a guide, and I would say I was more of a novice because it was my first time making a guide. And I would say it took me about a little over an hour, which, considering I had no idea what I was doing at all because I just wanted to try it on my own and see how hard it was pretty good because I literally had no idea.
And it, of course, is going to come down also to the complexity of the guide, right? So the Sonotech guide is actually on the simpler side because we want to show something to kind of get the idea out there and not go through, a detailed, very long process. But, we have folks who are doing guides that are doing branching paths. So based on responses from the user, they're taking them down different steps, and other things where they're actually looping into IoT to get feedback from the device and display it. And so it comes down to kind of what you're trying to accomplish in the level of complexity, and that's actually what makes it so powerful, right? Is you can build out a proof of concept pretty quickly, see if it's working for you, and then start diving into those more complex use cases.
A couple more questions here, and I'll leave about 5 minutes for the closing. But another question that came in: will the system validate each step to confirm that the operator performed it prior to moving to the next step? For example, did it verify that the operator looked at the PSI to confirm that it was at 60 PSI before proceeding, or will it advance as long as the operator selects the arrow button?
So it does advance, it's in the operator's control. So it does not have inbuilt kind of validation, but there are ways you can pipe in additional functionality through Microsoft's extended services like Power Apps and things like that in order to create a process by which you can basically take a photo from the headset and store it for that step and associate it with that user so that you have a trail going back to do confirmation. You can also do links to additional things like, e-signature forms to kind of have them validate that they are saying, I completed these steps and I'm willing to sign my name to say that I did that. And so there's a variety of ways to kind of ensure that it's being accomplished. And, as Amy said, this is what we're talking about here specifically is like an off-the-shelf product. If you were interested in, trying to design something yourself or do a custom solution, then all of these capabilities are things you could definitely build.
Okay.
Andrew, I do have one other question. You did Amy spent a brief moment on additive manufacturing importance. You talked about complexity. You were like building a part additively, but can you actually design a part? Can you do design work within this platform, this technology? So
that's definitely something that you could do with a HoloLens. So the really neat thing is that the device is, you can essentially think of it as, this is a computer I'm wearing on my head. It's running a specific flavor of Windows 10. And so if you wanted to do design work in the headset, you could build an application where you could, manipulate your vertices and, adjust your polygons or do your CAD design inside the headset. As far as kind of off-the-shelf products that are out there, that's something that people haven't really made public, but I do know that there are companies that internally have designed tools to kind of assist with that process. At the moment, the main use seems to be for kind of review and annotations, but that is definitely like kind of, as Amy mentioned in her presentation, like kind of a groundbreaking thing that everybody's now pushing for, right? To be able to actually take advantage of the fact that you're in 3 dimensions, right, while you're doing your design process instead of looking at a 2D screen.
All right. Thank you.
I saw one comment come in here. The actual presentation is attached to this. You'll see over in your GoToMeeting panel under handouts. If you expand that down, you can actually click and download the PDF of this presentation. So you can go ahead and do that at any moment. In addition, you'll get a link to it as well right after this presentation. So you can share it. I'll read one other question, not to cut any other questions off, but just for respecting the time here. Can instructions be presented to the HoloLens wearer based on real-world actions? More specifically, if an assembly technician reaches a certain phase of a production process, is there a way to get the guide to automatically move to the next step? So this is similar to the previous question.
So it is kind of designed to let the operator be in control of the guide and allow them to step through at their own pace.
And then one other question, how are the guides created?
So yeah, I touched on that briefly before with that two-part system, right? So you've got the desktop application, similar to PowerPoint, and then you have a HoloLens side application where you go in and you actually place the content in the real-world space. What's really neat about this is you can actually create a guide on a piece of machinery and then just send people the information about where the anchor point is on that piece of equipment, and then they can use that guide even if they're not in the same location. So if you had a Sonatech S3 Staker that I was using over there, right, I could send you the measurements and placement for our anchor for that guide, and then if you were part of our tenant and we allowed you into our instance, you'd be able to run that exact same guide on your piece of machinery.
Great, thank you. I think that's we're just running out of time here, so I'd like to we'll copy off these questions and we'll send them off to you, Andrew, and to you, Amy, so that we can get those responses back to the folks that asked them. So thanks for continuing to bring in your questions. We'd be happy to jot those down. On the next,
thank you, and Andrew, we'll get. Thank you for coming on, Amy, and Andrew, we appreciate it. And Nasir's going to wrap up now with some other info on the NERDIC program. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that great presentation on your technology. It's really a great application of augmented reality for visualizing instructions and important information directly on the source and on site. So the next phase of this program is to give your company hands-on experience using augmented reality. And this is to give you the opportunity to understand the technology, how it can benefit your particular process. So we welcome you to apply for a no-cost AR technology demonstration project by going to ccat.us/NERDIC/apply. We will also be sending this link to you following this presentation. We're going to be accepting applications until May 4th on this particular program. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, can you go back one? To be inclusive, objective, and equitable, we will be using the selection process in the event more applications from defense supplier companies are received. Then we have a lot of time to conduct the demonstrations. And this is going to be from May 17th to July 27th. It's by no means meant to preclude your company from getting a better understanding of how the technology can benefit you. For that, for the companies that give us permission, we'll certainly forward your contact directly to Amy to follow up with you. These demonstration projects are intended to be presented at a later time. Next slide. So for next week, we have another Industry 4.0 technology to introduce you. It's going to be on May 4th. We welcome you to join us at 12 p.m. to learn about generative design and how this AI-driven technology can really optimize part assembly designs so you can fully realize additive manufacturing benefits. You can register at ccat.us/NERDIC, and we'll have a guest speaker, Dr. Michael Pacelli, to discuss the benefits of this technology, and he'll be available also to answer questions. So upcoming technical workshops, on May 11th, my colleague Jeff Crandall will give an introduction to 3D printing, additive manufacturing to assist traditional manufacturing. In this workshop, you'll gain an understanding of what additive manufacturing really is and the materials and equipment used. You'll see some use cases, case studies of companies using additive manufacturing to aid and supplement traditional manufacturing processes, and what would be the next steps in learning more about using this technology in your company. On May 18th, we'll have experts from the Berkshire Innovation Center, BSS Additive, the Mozilla Group, and Roundabout Consulting, and they'll be presenting a benchmarking of 3D printed parts that are manufactured with the Desktop Metal Studio system. You'll learn how installation, maintenance, upgrades, and operator training variables can affect the quality control. On May 25th, we'll have the University of Maine and the Vermont Technical College present powder bed fusion and bound metal deposition additive manufacturing processes. Here you can learn the pros and cons of each technology, how additive manufacturing and design advantages this technology really affords can add value within supply chains, all while increasing part functionality. On June 8th, Mitch Kaminsky and Stephen Bukowski from RAM Engineering will present model-based definition. Here you can learn what is MBD, how is design, manufacturing, and inspection data embedded onto the 3D model, and how is that information used, and why is MBD a value? How can it be a cost-saving technology for your business? And then finally, on June 15th, Renishaw will present machine tool probing for Industry 4.0, and here you can learn what that is and how it helps your manufacturing process. So again, thank you very much for everyone that took time out of their schedule to attend. We would really appreciate your feedback. You're going to get a brief survey right after this webinar ends. We really welcome you to fill that out. It really gives you the voice. It lets us know what you're interested in. How did you feel about this particular virtual workshop? What other technologies you'd like to see? And then also it'll give you instructions and a link in an email of how to just the information that we presented here and how to submit an application for a technology demonstration as well. If you have any questions, if you need any help with anything, or if you want to be connected to SphereGen, please do feel free to give me send me an email. You can contact me that way. And again, thank you for joining on this webinar, and have a great rest of your day.